Master 19 here, and I've decided to start a series on this channel about the Fires of Midway by Clash of Arms games, designed by Stephen Cunliffe, the carry battles of 1942. The game came out in 2010, I was very young, so... Anyway, the game came out in 2010, so as I said, I was very young and obviously wasn't the age to play this, and I didn't even know what Midway or anything to do with World War II was. And this is a really fun game. It's got a lot of cool things to it. It has a few bits that could be ironed out. Last night I finished clipping the counters. And for those of you who like solitaire war games, I clip my counters with a nail clipper. Obviously, no pun intended, I don't use a nail clipper, which I use to cut my nails because that'd just be weird. But anyway, jokes aside, I'm really happy to start this tutorial and series. I think it's going to be, this is part 1. So we're going to be talking about the cards and all the components. Now the box is pretty cool. It's, as I said before, it's a nice little box. There is 2 additions to this, and you can also get a folio version. I recommend you get the boxed. And when I got this fully sealed. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the counters, and let's get into it. First counters we'll be looking at are the damage counters for your carriers. There are 2 types, well 4 actually, but they're double-sided. On the left you've got floods, on the right you've got infernos. Floods can be inflicted by torpedo hits from torpedo bombers, yours and the enemy's. Only torpedo bombers can cause floods. A flood is inflicted by a torpedo geyser, as we'll look at when we go to the cards. This represents when it's the end phase and you're searching for carrier damage, not searching for carrier damage, but when you're assessing carrier damage, when you're doing your explosion tests, you roll 3 dice. And if it's higher than your structure rating, it inflicts critical hit. Torpedo hits can inflict critical hits only if this goes over. You can actually repair damage, so if you repair a flood, you can repair it to a leak, which means you can only roll 1 die, which is good. And then if you repair the leak, it gets rid of it entirely. The only problem is, if the leak is higher than the carrier structure rating, a flood will start again. Infernos and fires. Now a fire breaks out when a dive bomber or a bomb hits your carrier and causes a fire. 2 fires combine to make an inferno, and an inferno is also inflicted as a critical hit. These mean you roll 2 dice for the carrier's structure rating. If it's higher, it inflicts a critical hit. This means you just roll 1. A bag of dice, well not a bag, you have to get a bag yourself, but it comes with 6 blue d6 and 6 red d6, round edges. We'll have a look at bulkhead counters. Now bulkhead counters are really important, and I'll go through this when we look at the game in greater detail, but this is just an introduction. Now bulkhead counters, the letter represents the carrier, so for example Enterprise, the bulkhead counter goes on the bulkhead. And speaking of which, to make it easier, I shall get an American carrier card. And we're not going to look at the carrier card, I'm just going to show you how the bulkhead works. So here's a carrier card. And a bulkhead goes at the full strength mark. The full strength means the carrier is ready to go, ready to roll. You can launch airstrikes. Torpedo hits can inflict hits, or, if you take a critical hit, you advance the bulkhead counter 1 track. When a carrier becomes cracked, it's not critically damaged, but you are at risk of being ruptured. Now, there is options to repair, with repair points and so forth and so on. We'll get into that in great detail in part 2. Now, if a bulkhead counter ever goes to 3, you can't repair that, and it's flipped to its fiery side. And then, there's 6 stages. The carrier is flipped to its smoking side or reduced side, and the bulkhead counter is crippled. Now crippled carriers can move. I don't know if I'm playing this right, but when I play the game, when a carrier is breached, it can't move and then sinking fast. Not good. So that's what bulkhead counters are. And there's quite a few of them. Got Midway Island, Midway Atoll, And this is for the Midway scenario, and you place this on the map, and then you flip it over and there is Wake Island, which is an additional scenario. Well, in the game on Midway you can command B-17s, and on the back they've got these. So this is your fuel rating of how much fuel it can use. This is how many bomb dice you'll roll, 2 bombs. So 2 bombs equals 2 dice, and that's pretty cool. Load your planes with for advanced rules. So £1,000, you can equip £2,000 bombs, which means you have 2 bomb dice and 3 fuel. And then you can flip it over to £500 bombs, which means, you know, you don't have any and you have extra fuel. Have bulkhead bunker Midway Island, that works just the same as a bulkhead. And then you have these, which are really important. These are the confident and desperate counters. Now what these do is, let me just quickly show you. I've got dust on my table, sorry about that. It's probably from when I was clicking the counters yesterday, but the victory counters, I'm just going to get one of the maps here so you can see. I'm not going to zoom in everything, but this is the American one. So at the start of the game, you have confident and desperate. Now, if a player is confident, they will have 2 victory points for the search phase. So if a player is confident, you know, they're confident, they have a maximum hand size of 7. Now, it depends on each scenario, but there's the reason why there's numbers 7 to 14, where you can make your own scenarios as well. The game is highly replayable. Is each scenario has a different victory point that you have to get. And for example, I'm playing Coral Sea and I'm almost done. So, say like we're confident, and if we find the carriers, well, we're 2. And you go up in stages. For each carrier you cripple, or for each pack of planes you destroy in the search and destroy box or whatnot, or the, what's it called? The watery grave, I'm getting confused. However, this is not good, because if you don't find the carriers, or if you lose too much and if you take too much damage, you can become desperate, which means you have a maximum hand size of 9 and you can't use your cards. But yeah, that's how the victory track works. So each time you cripple a carrier, or you get a set of planes destroyed, or if you destroy a carrier, it will give you certain points. And depending on the scenario, say like the winning scenario was 7 and I was on 6, and just pretend this is the Japanese one, and the Japanese one was on 4, which means Japanese player is desperate, I've won. So really cool, and it is for 2-player as well, but I like to play the game solitaire because it's really hard opponent to win. Oh, weather counters. Now there's 2 types, low clouds and squall. Now what these do is, it's really interesting because the game uses a really unique system. This is called the weather map, or the maneuver map. So this is just a little map, and this basically has, you basically roll 2d6, the 2 indication that you roll 2d6, and you'll be placing weather. Now if you're playing solitaire, you can print this out on BGG, Board Game Geek, and it gives you different things to play and place, as we'll talk about in greater detail. But so my camera doesn't focus on the map, we'll look back at the counters. Now, low clouds are rolled, you roll for low clouds and you place it on whatever number of the maneuver map. But low clouds, basically, they don't restrict you as such, but they do add some uncertainty, protection for your carriers, but not really. There's sort of like a fog of war system, you know. They cover your carriers. It adds a +1 die roll modifier to the distance of your strike group or the enemy strike group. And yeah, all round it's an alright thing. But then you've got squall, and these are placed when you are in the search phase and you draw cards, as we'll go through in the card phase. And then you have squall. Now squall works as a weather system, and a squall is basically a rainstorm or a thunderstorm or whatever. And a squall is basically a rain, sunny storm, or whatever you want to call it. And this allows your carriers to hide, or the enemy carriers. You can go in a squall, but you can't launch planes and you can't launch combat air patrol, or fighters to protect your carrier. I only use this, and I'm being honest guys, because the game is so hard to beat with AI. If you draw a squall, if your carrier is severely damaged but you can still move, the squall is your best bet. Because in the squall, enemy air attacks can't launch surprise attacks on you, they can't destroy you, and they can't launch, airstrikes at your carriers. but you can't stay in a squall forever. I mean, you could in theory, but the game, you know, the historical reality wouldn't be very systematic. So yeah, squall, yeah, there you go. It's basically like a deterrent, really, but pretty cool. It's also bad for you if the enemy have a squall and they hide their carriers, because that means, you know, you've lost their carriers. Have these, which are task force markers. The A and the letters represent the carrier, depicting on the scenario. And let me just bring the maneuver map out. Now, these work really cool because when you play the game, 2 carriers combine to make a task force for the Americans. 2 Japanese carriers make a butai, or kido butai. And the Japanese start here. So, for example, you'll place your carriers here, and they're hidden. The +1 means it only depends if you haven't found the carrier. If you haven't found the carrier, or the enemy carrier, when you're on your way to the fuel run, we'll go in greater detail in part 2, you have to flip, you have to +1 to the die roll, and just hope you find it. Or not the die roll, sorry, you have to +1 to the fuel roll. And when a carrier is located, it's flipped to its located side. And I really like the iconography of the game. I mean, you got American carriers there, and then you got Japanese carriers there. And when a carrier is located, it's located. And if a carrier is crippled and it's located, well, that means it can't move, can it? Unless it's breached, and then it can't move at all, and then you've just got to, you know, pot shot like a Mariana's turkey shoot. I wish the Battle of the Philippine Sea was in this game. If anyone's watching here who's a designer, please make Battle for the Philippine Sea version. I'd love to attack the Shiyoda and Ozawa's task force. I'm talking nautical speak, the Battle of the Philippine Sea, which was actually the biggest carrier battle of the war. So yeah, these are really cool carrier counters, and of course you can move them in the map, and a carrier moves 1 space per round. Midway Island is really cool because Midway goes here, there you go, and that means you can move. Midway Island doesn't move. Midway's not a carrier. It's not like the island could just go, hey, I'm going to attack the carriers. No, Midway Island will always stay. So I hope you guys found this very helpful. I know I sure did. I mean, I've been working on this game for a while. Well, I've not been working on the game. I'm working on clipping the counters, because there's nothing worse than having game counters that are just chipped, or, you know, with horrible pointed corners, surrounded edges. It makes it easier to pick up, and it makes them easier to move around the board. But I hope you find that helpful. That's part 1 of Fires of Midway, and this is episode 1, counters. And in part 2, we will be talking about the cards. Well, I hope you folks enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next one. Until then, take care.